Happy Halloween, everybody. It's officially the last day of Spooktober, which means it's time for the final chapter in my horror movies that made me series. This time, we're talking about what's probably my favorite horror movie of all time, and one that completely changed the landscape. Every year, there's always at least one horror movie that comes out that gets hyped up with stories of people vomiting, fainting, running out of the theater. Normally, I roll my eyes at that stuff because, come on, half of it's just marketing. But this movie? This is the OG, the original people couldn't handle it horror movie. That's right, we're talking about the 1973 horror masterpiece, The Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin and based on the novel by William Peter Blatty. See the shirt? Cool, wanted to make sure you saw it. Now it's time for the Halloween costume. Yep. Superman. So after watching The Lost Boys and Poltergeist with my dad and seeing Coraline in theaters, I wanted to go deeper into the horror genre. I wanted to see something that would really test me. So I went to my dad and I asked him, what's the scariest horror movie you've ever seen? And the look of joy on his face is something that I will never forget. So me, my dad, and my grandfather, who was in town for the weekend, all settled into the living room to watch The Exorcist. And I went in completely blind. No trailers, no spoilers, no real knowledge about the movie at all. So, as you can imagine, 12-year-old me had a great experience watching this movie. Starring Linda Blair as Regan McNeil and Ellen Burstyn as her mother, Chris, the story follows Regan as she gets possessed by a demon named Pazuzu, and her mother's desperate fight to save her soul with the help of two priests. Father Damien Karras, played by Jason Miller, and Father Lancaster Marin, played by Max von Sydow. But what's really genius about this movie is it doesn't dive right into the chaos. It starts off kind of slow. We open in northern Iraq with Father Marin uncovering a statue of Pazuzu, the demon that's about to make everyone's life hell. And as a kid, I'll admit it, I was a little bored and confused during this opening scene, but watching it now, I get it. It's setting up the biblical battle that's about to occur between Marin and Pazuzu. But it's not just setup, it's dread, it's atmosphere. It's the calm before a storm that's been brewing for centuries. Then we jump to Georgetown in Washington, D.C., where Chris is filming a movie and trying to balance being an actress and raising her daughter. And honestly, what I love about the first act is that it takes its time. It lets you fall in love with these characters before ripping your heart out. Regan's sweet, funny, full of life, just a normal 12-year-old kid. And then she starts playing with a Ouija board. Of course she does. She tells her mom about her new friend, Captain Howdy.
You really don't want me to play, huh?
No, I do. Captain Howdy said no.
And naturally, Chris just thinks it's her imagination. But we know better. I mean, we're watching a movie called The Exorcist after all. From there, things start to unravel. And let me tell you, Linda Blair's possession from sweet little girl to fully demonically possessed is just wild. She goes from shy smiles and giggling as she gets tickled to full-on profanity, violence, and chaos. By the time that she interrupts a dinner party and pees all over the carpet, it's like, okay, we're in for it now. And then the medical scenes hit. And those horrifyingly realistic medical testing that they do on Regan, yeah, they actually really freaked me out the first time I saw it, and actually kind of freaked me out more today than the possession scenes. And then comes the face. That blink and you'll miss it shot of Pazuzu, played by Mercedes McCambridge. That pale face, those snarling teeth, that black background. It's just on screen long enough for you to notice it, but once I noticed it, it was in my brain forever. I'm serious, at 12 years old, that image gave me nightmares for 2 weeks. I could barely handle the blood, I could barely handle the spinning head, but that face? Nope. Moving away from Regan's story, let's talk a bit about Father Karras, played perfectly by Jason Miller. As a 12-year-old, I loved the character, but I didn't really grasp how fully layered he was. But now, he's one of my favorite horror protagonists ever. He's not just some perfect priest sent down from heaven to save the day. Yeah, he's a priest, but he's just a regular guy. He's full of grief, reeling after the loss of his mother, and his faith is being tested.
I need reassignment.
You're the best we've got.
I think I've lost my faith.
And that's what makes him such a powerful character. He's human, he's relatable, he's flawed. You feel every ounce of his uncertainty, guilt, and exhaustion, and Miller completely nails it. And his friendship with Father Dyer, played by real priest William J. O'Malley, adds even more heart, giving the story these small but necessary moments of heart among the chaos. Of course, things start to really spiral when Chris's director, Burke Dennings, played by Jack McGowan, ends up dead at the bottom of those infamous Georgetown steps that are right outside Regan's window. That's when Detective Kinderman, played by Lee J. Cobb, starts poking around, and I really love the way this character is done, because not only does he have great chemistry with Jason Miller, and you feel a real friendship budding there, but he has this adorable moment where he's talking to Chris and sheepishly asks her for an autograph. That just adds a lot more to that character.
For my daughter, could you please give an autograph?
Of course. And what's your name?
I lied, it's for me.
But between Denning's death, Regan's escalating behavior, and the supernatural insanity, the bed shaking, objects flying, the spinning head, and yes, that crucifix scene, If you know, you know. It's no wonder Chris is falling apart. Speaking of Chris, Ellen Burstyn gives an unbelievable performance here. She's warm, funny, tough, and desperate, and you see every ounce of fear behind her eyes as her daughter becomes unrecognizable to her. When she finally finds Father Karras and asks him for help, it feels like a breaking point, not just for her, but for the whole movie. And then, finally, comes Father Merrin, the titular exorcist. His arrival scene, that iconic shot of him standing in the fog under that streetlight, is just pure cinema. I mean, it's been done and referenced so many times since then. And from that point on, the movie becomes an all-out spiritual war. The exorcism itself is legendary.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
The vomit, the levitation, the insults so nasty it'll make Deadpool blush.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell, Karras, you faithless swine.
And through that all, Karras' arc reaches its peak. Pazuzu taunts him with insults about his mother and even imitates her voice at one point, breaking him down piece by piece.
You're not my mother!
So, since Pazuzu was getting under Karras' skin and making him emotional, Merrin kicks him out to finish the exorcism by himself. But when Karras goes to check on him, he finds Merrin dead, presumably from a heart attack that was teased with him taking nitroglycerin tablets that may or may not have been caused by possessed Regan. And when he hears Regan giggling about this, Karras absolutely loses it and starts beating her, begging the demon to leave her alone and come into him instead. Pazuzu obliges and goes into Karras, and there's a split moment where you think that he might hurt Regan. But in a moment of faith and strength, the real Karras pushes through and makes the ultimate sacrifice, hurling himself out the window and tumbling down those Georgetown steps. Regan is shaken up but safe, but Karras is laying in the road dying, and his friend Father Dyer finds him and administers his last rites. And with that, Karras' arc is fully realized, and he was solidified as one of my favorite protagonists in horror history. Jesus, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. And after all this horror and nastiness, we finally get a happy and hopeful ending, with Chris and Regan, who remembers nothing, giving an emotional goodbye to Father Dyer and leaving Georgetown behind forever, moving on to bigger and better things. Now, I can't talk about my favorite horror movie of all time without talking about the crazy shit that be happening behind the scenes. Poor Linda Blair, man. Not only was she injured multiple times during filming, including the scene where she's being thrashed around on the bed, but she had to endure hours of makeup every day. Plus, to make the actor's breath visible on screen years before CGI, Friedkin decided to keep Regan's bedroom at -20 to -40 degrees. Yeah, freezing, and Linda Blair was just in a thin nightgown. To this day, she can't stand being cold. Plus, there's Ellen Burstyn fracturing her tailbone when Regan slaps her and sends her across the room because they pulled her harness too hard. You can actually see her pain scream in the final film. Not to mention the fact that Friedkin had a habit of trying to scare the crap out of his actors to get the most authentic shots. He would fire guns on set, and at one point, asked Jason Miller if he trusted him, and when Miller said yes, slapped the shit out of him and then yelled action. Yeah, this movie was kind of a hellish experience for everyone involved, and I've gotta be honest, a lot of these stories kind of made me feel a little icky when I first heard about them after watching the documentary on Shudder, A Leap of Faith, William Friedkin on The Exorcist. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't make for one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Filled with amazing characters, incredible writing, truly groundbreaking effects for the time that still hold up, solid themes woven throughout, and some of the most taboo and horrific stuff put to screen. Oh, and that Tubular Bells theme by Mike Oldfield, iconic, creepy, and always gives me chills. The less said about the prequels and sequels, the better. We get the backstory of Father Merrin and his time abroad in two different versions of the same movie that came out a year apart. Seriously, the story behind those two movies is wild. But believe me when I say it, it's not worth your time. And trust me, neither is the sequel The Exorcist 2 Heretic, unless you really enjoy shitty movies.
I was possessed by a demon. Oh, it's okay. He's gone.
And the less said about The Exorcist Believer, the better.
Didn't actually witness it, you know. My opinion, it's because I'm not a member of the damn patriarchy.
But The Exorcist 3, that is definitely the best sequel in this franchise, and I highly recommend it. I just watched it a few years ago and was blown away at how great it was. Look, as a 12-year-old just getting into horror, this really shook me and stuck with me for a long time. I'd never seen anything like it, and even with me first watching it 30 years after it came out, everything held up, and still does today over 50 years later. But that fear and trauma only intrigued me to the point where I've watched it over and over again since then, and I really credit this movie for making me the horror buff that I am today. And that's my retrospective review on The Exorcist, closing out the horror movies that made me. We went through The Lost Boys, Coraline, Poltergeist, and now this, and I really had a great time walking down memory lane with you guys. Please let me know if you enjoyed this and you want more retrospective reviews, because I really had fun doing it. Anyway, thanks for watching, happy Halloween, and if you like this video, you know exactly what to do. Please leave a like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to be notified whenever I post. While you're at it, you can scroll down, leave a comment below, let me know if you've seen The Exorcist and what you think, and if you want more of my content, you can click or tap on these cards right here. They'll take you to my spoiler review of the first episode of It, Welcome to Derry, or just over to my channel where you can check out the rest of my reviews. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next week for my review of Shelby Oaks, finally, followed by Begonia.